That may be something else I should be apologetic
No,
about.
that was a fun one. Okay, cool.
Oh my.
Oh my.
We're starting.
No. So we're back. Yeah, so, we've talked about kind of daily kind of travelogue stuff. But yeah, I mean, I thought this would be a cool opportunity to talk about other kind of like stuff growing up,
One of us did.
Yeah, so one of us did. So you had mentioned that there was like, when we were talking earlier in the park about like, well, like when we were kind of growing, when I was growing up, you were like, you saw things a little differently than me, right? So like
Yeah.
And so what were some of those things that you were like, I really wish, I'd done or not done?
Oh boy. Well, the obvious one, the one I mentioned before, is when we were living in Connecticut, John would have been 4 and 5, and I'd put him to bed. I had a really good relationship with John and Dave because I'm putting them to bed every night.
Well, my mom worked at UPS.
Yeah, she was a truck loader. So my wife, the Teamster, his mom, the Teamster.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, did she learn some language too. Whoa. But never used it. She's a lady. So I put David to bed. David hard to go to sleep. And I would lean over to John's crib and softly whisper, and if you wake it up, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. Or words to that effect. And I look back at that and go, I wanted to be a kind, loving father, and that's not kind or loving. Now, I don't remember in Connecticut ever spanking John. I did once later on, but that's just not the loving father I really wanted to be. And to say I'm sorry is I apologize.
Oh, thank you.
You deserve better.
I mean, I don't remember this at all. That would have been,
You would have been 5.
Less than 5, 2 to 5.
No, because we were in Connecticut. Your mother was working. She was asleep because you had to get there at 4. And that would have put you about 5 because we came back when you were late 5, almost 6 in October. So you would have been most of your 5-year-old.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't remember that at all. I remember a lot of other things about Connecticut. I remember the snow. I remember sailing or getting at least thrown behind the boat.
Yes. That may be something else I should be apologetic about.
No. That was a fun one. No, we would just get holding on a line in life jackets and just tossed behind the boat.
Yeah, we were sailing. We had a
sailboat, not a powerboat.
We had a sailboat there on the lake on Swan's Pond or Swan's Lake, and the boys were so excited about sailing they wanted to jump off the boat, and they could swim. They could swim. They were good swimmers, and so we made sure the life jackets were on, and dumped them off in the back and had them hold on to a rope as we sailed along the lake.
Yeah, and
we just towed them behind us.
I lived long enough to see Athena, my brother's daughter, just do the exact same thing. We were kayaking along Town Lake in Austin, and she just, we're all going, and kept telling her, no, don't jump in the water. And like, we're about 50 feet from the pier, and she just heads straight into the lake. So, I guess like father like son, or like father like daughter.
But Athena's not your daughter.
No, but Dave is the one.
Well, David did that too, so yes.
Yeah.
And I don't feel terribly bad about that, but maybe I should. As a motor's ed instructor, I kind of cringe at that, but yeah.
But she had her vest on, she's doing great.
She was doing great.
Yeah.
And she's bigger than 5.
She is. Yeah.
She's 6.
So,
or she just turned 6.
That's great. I think, anything else you can think of?
Well, that's one of an enormous number. I always felt bad when we transitioned from our first scout troop to our second one, and I thought, oh, the second scout troop, these people are model scouts. Well, they were on the outside, and it was a good scout troop, but there were some pressures there that were not appropriate, and anyway, so there were adults that did things I didn't appreciate, and Kathy didn't appreciate either, and the stress showed up on John, not so much David, but John took the brunt of the heat, and that there are any number of scout troops that would have been better for you, and I'm not sure that being in scouts was good for you at that point. But maybe, what do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's a great question. I feel like for me, I learned a lot of skills. I learned how to do hard things. Going on long hikes was something that I felt like I was comfortable kind of in uncomfortable situations, which I think is just a really important skill to learn. There's a quote from the Baha'i faith about accustoming your children to hardship. And while I wouldn't say that, walking around and the, hiking around is really that hard in scope of things, but I think for, 10, 12 years old, it was pretty tough for me.
You would have been about 14 at that point.
Yeah.
14, 15. Because you had to be about 15 to go to Philmont.
Yeah, it's probably 13 to 15, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, so it was a good experience, I would say. But it's one of those things where it's like looking back, everything that got me here, like I am here, I feel like it was good. And so everything looking backward was like, well, I feel like it was all justified to get me here, right? So it's hard to really kind of objectively decide like this was good, this was bad. So I feel like it's just kind of all a wash, Just grateful for all those kind of character building experiences. Now, would I push my daughter into that? I don't know. I think I would definitely try to find stuff that was, where she had to kind of find her way socially or find her way physically, with orienteering or hiking and stuff like that. So, I don't know. I think it would look pretty similar to that for me. So I would count that in the success pile. Even if it was uncomfortable as a parent.
Well, no, I wouldn't. It wasn't terribly uncomfortable for me. I would just watch them beat on you, or not physically beat on you, but bury you, and I couldn't stop it because they were in charge of that program and they wanted to run it that way, and I'm just going. I didn't feel like I should stop them.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. I felt like I should stop them. But I didn't because I didn't want to exercise authority for my son.
Yeah.
I didn't want to make it softer for you. And I didn't want to use the authority given to me as a scoutmaster for my son. I would have done it for other kids and did it for other children, other youth. But I just didn't feel like I could do that to you. So it's one of my personality quirks. I find it easier to be nice to people I don't like.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to offend them. Because I don't like them.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
It's such an interesting thing. Yeah, I think as a kid, going into that experience, I was definitely... Yeah, it's definitely, how to put it? I could feel that there was some sort of anti-favoritism happening, anti-nepotism, and it was definitely, that was definitely uncomfortable at the time. Looking back, it all just kind of fades into history, and, I just kind of say my character was built, I one of the things that came up in that experience was I was regularly told to stop and smell the roses, that I was advancing too fast in scouting. And and I feel like in hindsight, I feel like that was something that was kind of a lesson that people were trying to teach me that I just never really learned. Like I have still never wanted to stop and smell the roses through like undergraduate, graduate education, a career in public health, a career in clinical lab science. Like I've just never wanted to stop and smell the roses. I wanted to get to the end of the race as fast as possible. So maybe that's a good point. Like not every lesson that you're trying to teach kids they actually learn. Or I'm looking back like I'm glad I didn't learn that lesson. I feel like that would have not served me well.
Yeah, because there was a lot of people who a lot of young men got bored. They quit advancing. They got bored with what was going on and left. Mm-hmm. And so they worked really hard and got 80% of the way, but never got the brass ring.
Yeah.
And that's wrong. If they want, up until they realized that people were blocking them, they lost interest. They really wanted that brass ring.
Yeah.
And I was really, for those kids, I did the very best I could to keep them moving, give them stuff, give them opportunities, work with them and help them grow. And then they just lost interest and went away.
Well, the lesson I learned was I am a big fan of brass rings, and I love to collect achievements, and I love to get that win condition, whatever it is, whether it's education, professionalism, whatever. So
if we didn't winning, there's nothing wrong with winning, provided you played by the rules.
Yeah.
And did not push other people out of the way. If you helped other people along and you can all win, that's the best possible world. And that's how I tried to run Troop 20 when I got to be the Scoutmaster.
That's great.
And we had a lot of young men get the brass ring.
That's great.